Despite my love of many of the actors that make up the regular cast and the overall decent quality of the movies, I don't consider myself a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. I've never been even remotely connected to or interested in the street racing gearhead subculture that made up the first 3 films. The 4th film bores the heck out of me, and while I do enjoy 5 through 8, it's a very shallow enjoyment based only on the action scenes and some of the actors. I don't care about the main cast of characters, and I think the film is really handicapped by the premise of the original movie. Every movie has to have a street race scene out of obligation alone, and the filmmakers are really stretching to find ways to base action scenes around cars in new and exciting ways. So I was actually excited when I heard there would be a movie with action reminiscent of the later films in the series, but starring only my 2 favorite actors from the franchise, Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham. And it's directed by David Leitch, the director of John Wick, Atomic Blonde, and Deadpool 2. This should be awesome. But was it, or is it a misguided spin-off? As far as spin-offs go, is this more Logan or Baywatch Nights? Jason Statham plays a secret agent named Shaw, and Dwayne Johnson plays a wanted persons tracker named Hobbs. The two do not get along thanks to their encounters in the 7th and 8th films in the main series, but both are called on to work together by the CIA and MI6 when an old partner of Shaw's, Brixton, turns out to have survived being killed basically, and is using his newfound cyborg superpowers to try and steal a programmable virus, which as far as MacGuffins and evil plans go is a pretty neat one. Shaw's sister has taken the virus so that Brixton can't get it, so now Shaw and Hobbs have to protect her while the 3 of them have to stop Brixton. Can Hobbs and Shaw learn to get along in time to save the world? Yes, Hobbs is easily the most like an actual character that he's ever been here. He has more fun interactions with his daughter, personal drama involving his backstory and family, a romantic interest, and he's used for a lot more comedy. Deckard Shaw isn't characterized much more than usual, but we also get filled in on his backstory, and Statham has always had an underrated gift for action comedy that's used just as well as Johnson's is. Neither are much more than very similar stone-cold action heroes that these actors normally play in movies, though they try to differentiate Hobbs in the aforementioned ways. Shaw's sister, played by Vanessa Kirby, is also fine, but doesn't really have anything going on. Idris Elba is the show stealer here, not quite chewing the scenery, but looking like he's having more fun than anyone else. Idris Elba's great in everything, really. But who comes to these movies for characters? It's all about the action. And, well, it's a mixed bag in that regard. The fight scenes are stylized and don't even pretend to be realistic, which is fine, since it's basically a superhero movie anyway, given what Hobbs and Brixton can do. But that does mean some of the hits don't feel that hard. None of the fight scenes stand up to Statham's work in the Transporter series, and none of Johnson's top his prison fight in The Fate of the Furious. Some of the action scenes that aren't centered around fighting get really imaginative, though. There's a well-laid-out fight on the side of a building that's kind of part chase and part fight, and there's even a little bit of a gunfight in there, and every character's location in relation to each other affects what's going on. There's also a hand-to-hand fight scene where a flamethrower is used to excellent effect, though Once Upon a Time in Hollywood still has the best flamethrower scene this year, and I like being able to say that sentence. The villain's superpowers and his transforming superpowered motorcycle make it so you never know what's going to happen next in every chase or fight he's involved in. The escape from the villain's base is my least favorite action scene in the movie. Bad CGI drones are antagonists, and the movie bends reality just a little too much for me. Yeah, I know the movie's intentionally unrealistic. There's a supervillain cyborg and a techno-magic MacGuffin after all, but there's a scene in this movie where Jason Statham is in a car spiraling through the air like a football, and he shoots a drone with a pistol while he's spinning, and the drone explodes. The accuracy and the apparent power of the bullets is just a little too much for even me to buy, sorry. The finale, though, is something special. Hobbs takes the Shaw siblings to his extended family's home in Samoa, where he and a bunch of his relatives and friends set up a bunch of traps, perform a haka, and take on an army of bad guys in melee combat. The villains' guns all use RFID chips, so when those are disabled by the heroes, they can no longer fire, meaning the movie ends with a bunch of mercenaries taking on a bunch of basically Maori warriors with ancient wooden weapons and modern-day auto shop tools. It's the most hyper-masculine thing I've seen all year, and it's not even the end of the movie. There's an absolutely absurd car/helicopter chase where a bunch of nitrous-packing tow trucks haul the bad guy's chopper. Johnson even gets to do that thing where Captain America held down a helicopter by himself. And then we get an obligatory final fight scene in the ever-dramatic rain where the heroes are able to win this time as opposed to all of their other fights with the villain because the plot says so. But I still think that it's one of the better climaxes of an action film this summer. There are a few weird cameos in the movie. Helen Mirren plays the Shaw's mother, and there's every indication that she's just as awesome as they are. Ryan Reynolds appears as a guy who just so happens to have the exact same sense of humor as Deadpool, but with PG-13 friendly language, shocker, and Kevin Hart appears as an air marshal. While the inclusion of these 3 actors feels like seed planting for potential sequels to this spin-off, I really like Kevin Hart's character. He's only in one scene, but he shines in it. He's just as intelligent, experienced, and capable as Hobbs or Shaw, but he still gets to do that Kevin Hart recurring bit about not being a tough or intimidating guy even though he tries to be. It's really interesting to see cool Kevin Hart and dweeb Kevin Hart in one character. I hope he comes back back if they make more. Hobbs and Shaw is a disposable but entertaining movie with nothing deeper than a small rain puddle to like, but nothing bad either. Whether you enjoy it will depend entirely on how you feel about disposable summer action blockbusters. Let me put it this way. I like the movie Tango and Cash. Do you like the movie Tango and Cash? If so, you'll like Hobbs and Shaw. If not, don't bother, it's a waste of your time. Oh, in Hollywood, I'm really glad The Rock started to make actual action movies again, instead of just comedies parodying his action hero persona. And these halfway points like Hobbs and Shaw or the Jumanji sequel are fine too, but can we please get him in the next Expendables movie? That series has never lived up to its full potential, and I'd really like to see Johnson try to elevate it. Thanks for listening.